Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live, and then we're available on demand. And we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple Television, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Wednesday, May 17, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same models of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission? To support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbian, trans, student youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, political advocacy, and faith. Help us support our communities.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's begin by welcoming anchor Fay What. She is a radio and television personality and has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Fay's Fur Family. Also, make sure to catch the Fay What Show, the first LGBTQ plus morning show, Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern online or your smart television. Fay was the winner of the 2022 SFGN Best Local Television Personality. Welcome, Fay.
Hi, boys. I'm so happy to be here, and I have to send a big hug to Visit Lauderdale and Albie Ram for allowing me to be part of their Hidden in Plain Sight episodes. It's going to be airing in a couple of weeks. It was just such an incredible thing to be a part of yesterday. I want to say hello to all the folks at the Bonnet House. You guys are amazing as well, and Albie's whole crew. You will be seeing info on that soon, all right?
And it looks so cool.
It was so amazing. It was so amazing. Like, look up Avi Ram, okay? He is just a master, and he's like a airbrush superhero. I mean, he just is so talented, and he's hot as hell, too.
That was you? Oh my God, yeah.
He's hot as hell, too.
Yes.
Next up, let's welcome John Hayden. He's a journalist for 28 years, and he now works for several outlets, including South Florida Gay News as senior reporter and community editor, covering politics, entertainment, and local events directly impacting the LGBTQ plus community. John's interviewed everyone, from presidents to Oscar winners, and he just got back from spending Mother's Day weekend in Michigan and is still recovering. What the hell is there to do in Michigan?
Well, I should say I'm still warming up because
because it's cold.
it got down to the 50s every night, and I was like, ugh, no, hard pass. And I'm excited. Tonight's going to be a fun night because I think you and I are going to go karaokeing,
Tap that
and
ass.
we are going to sing a duet. We're going to sing "Islands in the Stream," and it's going to be you and I.
No, but who sings that original?
Oh, Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers.
Oh my gosh.
they both dead?
Card suspended. Boom.
Islands in the stream.
Thank goodness the words come up on the
That is what
screen.
we are.
Yes, how can you be?
Sorry, I'm not that old, Dino.
I thought it was Maya from the 1990s. Remember her? What happened to her? Anyway?
What happened to you?
I'm getting less gay by the moment.
I know.
We haven't even gotten through the hellos yet. So let's welcome anchor Dino Mosquera. He joined the Miami Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in the late 1990s. And Al joined in the late 1890s, so there's some continuity there.
It's going to be one of those.
It's gonna be. Dino now serves on
Off
the Outshine,
teleprompter we go.
Right?
Outshine Film Festival's board of directors. He is now the screening committee chairman, selecting films for one of America's most important LGBTQ plus film festivals. Hey, howdy, Dino.
Thank you, John. And I want to thank everybody for coming to the Miami Film Festival. It happened just a couple of weeks ago. A lot of great news, a lot of people, people are coming back to the theaters, and we already have dates for the
most watched film festival for Outshine that they've ever had, which is great. 20th anniversary.
And I've been to many.
anniversary.
I've been to many in Fort Lauderdale and also in Miami when you do it. And this last one was one of your best. Dino, congratulations.
No, thank you. October 19th starts the one in Fort Lauderdale. Will be announced.
Oh, and by the way, can I be the first one to say, thank God it's coming back to Fort Lauderdale?
I'll be there, okay? I'll be coming from Miami to Fort Lauderdale.
I don't care. You can drive.
All right, let's welcome anchor Jacob Reide Jennings, a professional ballroom and Latin dancer turned real estate broker and philanthropist. Jacob uses his life experience as a youth who experience homelessness to help those in our community find housing and humor. In 2020, Jacob used his vast real estate investment knowledge to found the Sherlock Holmes Foundation, named after his dog, to address LGBTQ youth housing insecurity. Currently, his foundation has houses in Colorado, North Carolina, and Virginia. Welcome, Jacob.
Why, thank you, Dino. And by the way, if anyone is interested in joining, I'm going to be having a non-gender conforming ballroom and Latin dance series starting tomorrow night at Star Ballroom in Pompano Beach. Come have a great time. Bring your friends, bring your frenemies. It's going to be a fabulous time. I promise it's not going to be PC, and you're going to laugh your assets off. It's going to be lovely. Wonderful. Yes, there we go. I'm in real estate. I can say that. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBT plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points for the queer news of today, Wednesday, May 17th, 2023.
Well, first up, let's queer up breaking news. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis celebrates the UN International Day Against Homophobia with a slate of hate bill signings. Florida celebrated the UN worldwide May 17th celebration today of International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia. In Cuba, they celebrated with a conga parade in Havana. U.S. embassies across the world held receptions. France held an educational conference in Paris, and President Biden and the White House discussed today how important standing against hate is for all Americans. So we are not surprised how Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis chose to celebrate today. He did so by holding a bill signing that Equality Florida described as the slate of hate. DeSantis chose to sign House Bill 1069 on Don't Say LGBT expansion, Senate Bill 254, gender-affirming care ban, House Bill 1521, the anti-trans bathroom bill, and then House Bill 1423, the anti-drag bills. The governor and Tallahassee GOP celebrated homophobia and transphobia with this hateful photo op. Equality Florida held an emergency press conference that was attended by Florida and national media, including Queer News Tonight. Joe Saunders, senior political director of Equality Florida, said, quote, "This marks the largest slate of anti-LGBTQ bills to be signed in a single legislative session in Florida history," end quote. In fact, today, Governor DeSantis made history for the largest single day of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation becoming law in a single day in American history. Saunders said in advance of the Florida governor's announcement to run for president, quote, "The nation should be on high alert. Today, we are all Americans," end quote. Equality Florida's executive director, Nadine Smith, said, quote, "Any insult from DeSantis against Equality Florida is a badge of honor. We are the resistance. They are trying to divide the LGBTQ plus community. They will not succeed. We are more united than ever, end quote. Then Saunders also made note of the importance in history of May 17th, today, by saying, quote, "Today is an all-out attack on freedom. Free states don't strip parents of the right to make healthcare decisions for their children. Free states don't ban books, censor curriculum, or muzzle free speech. DeSantis doesn't see freedom as a value worth defending. He sees it as a campaign slogan in his bid for the White House, and he is setting freedom and Florida's reputation ablaze in his desperation to win the GOP nomination. The nation should be on high alert. We are all Floridians as DeSantis seeks to export this blueprint of authoritarianism to the rest of the country," end quote. This is how Florida celebrated May 17th and the world's International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, at least in Florida's capital and the governor's mansion. Well, crystal clear of what's happened today. The governor, as Equality Florida points out in this national press conference held today, he chose May 17th on the international celebration against hate in the world to the LGBTQ community to show signing of 4 hateful bills. And that's how he chose to mark the day. The one thing that I would say, and I've mentioned this before, in history, there have been 2 notable names that have gone down in flames, but at times had great success. In the 1950s, Joe McCarthy rang bells of the Red Scare, and for quite a while, 4 or 5 good years, he had quite the success of doing it, and people operated in fear of responding to the senator from Wisconsin, but was ultimately dismissed in total shame. The other time was a governor in Alabama named George Wallace, and he famously stood on the steps of the Capitol in Alabama to say against the Supreme Court and the President of the United States, "We are not integrating our schools," and went down in flames. I think we're getting ready and are watching in a move like what we've watched today, a third American that literally is destroying his reputation before our very eyes, but he just hasn't seen it yet, like Wallace and like McCarthy.
You know, for someone that doesn't like us and doesn't want us alive, he sure knows all our celebrations, doesn't he? Because remember last year, like at the beginning of Pride Month,
June 1,
he also started signing everything for Don't Say Gay. Martin Luther King said something that like really hit me today when I saw this news story. "Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity."
Conscientious stupidity.
And that's what we're at today. And that hit me like with a bag of bricks with what we're dealing with
when you
today.
talk about all these people that didn't say anything to McCarthy back in the day, and waited, it reminds me a lot of what's happening right now here in terms of, it will take some corporations because money talks.
Yeah.
This is America, money talks. And Disney World, like big corporations like that, Florida-based, or let's say like sports celebrations that could potentially boycott the state of Florida. Like it happened in North Carolina a few years back when the whole bathroom law passed in North Carolina, and then the NBA or the NASCAR or some of these big events will boycott the state of Florida. I hate to see that happening in the state of Florida because a lot of people depend on this event.
That money,
and
yeah.
it's their work, but things like that have to happen for this guy to back up. Because otherwise it's not going to happen.
I think that this is bolstering, and I've agreed with it. And Al, you and I have had discussions off camera and maybe on here. I agree with Equality Florida's travel advisory, telling people to rethink coming here for work, setting up a business, moving here. Mm-hmm. This, a story like this, and if I were DeSantis, I would have had a bill signing yesterday and today and then one tomorrow. I would have spread it out all week and had it just be hate week a la 1984. But something I take issue with is that what we call today homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia day. At least in America, there is no homophobia. There is no transphobia. That means to be scared of something. DeSantis and his crew are not scared of us. Even the people that he's trying to rile up are not scared of us. They figured out how to work pull the legal levers of the system to work against us, the ones we started operating so well about 30 years ago. So they're not scared of us. They're coming for us, not out of fear, but out of power that the voters have given him. We say it all the time. I know we say it all the time, but you got to vote. But you added a lot more to do in the next 17 months before the election. You have to organize. You've got to talk to your friends. Talk to your crazy uncle, or talk to your crazy uncle's wife. Maybe she can at least vote the right way and cancel out his vote next year. But we got to do something. We've got to come together because they are not phobic of us. They are hateful.
Mm-hmm. I always think it's interesting. People assume that the answer is voting. I disagree. Voting has power, and we need to be voting. That is our social responsibility. But we need to be empowering our community to vote, not yelling at them, and not saying anybody was. But I feel like everyone just gets so, when we went to the event this Sunday, it was wonderful, but everyone's like yelling at everyone to go and vote. I'm like, no, empower your neighbors to vote. Empower the seniors that are beside you to go to the polls with you and have conversations with people that may not agree with you. Try to expand why you believe something and see if you can defend it by having someone else see your point of view or sharing theirs for a moment. Maybe if we start talking to each other and empowering one another, we'll be a little bit more united. We'll have a little more compassion.
Well, one last thought that I want to say before we move on to John. Just last night, we were reporting live in Queer News Tonight, the reporting that we were, that inside GOP insiders saying that the governor's campaign is going to launch the presidential campaign on June Pride Month. Over the next 12 days leading up to June Pride, perhaps even on June 1, he's going to announce for being president. We reported this last night. It's received lots of attention today in all kinds of circles. You know, one thing that I didn't think about last night as we were reporting that as breaking news, we did not report on May 17th on the UN International Day because we were going to do it today. We had scheduled our lead story today to be talking about the UN's efforts around the world on international against homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia. The story changed today, and we pulled the story of the celebration of the event worldwide just today because we didn't think yesterday, as we're telling the story, that he's going to break the back or try to break the back of the LGBTQ community by announcing he's running for president of the United States, the first time in history a presidential candidate has done it, on June 1 or on the eve of June 1 to draw contrast to June Pride Month. It never crossed our mind that he would launch that on May 17th of International Day Against Homophobia. It never crossed our mind. This story is only implemented today because we didn't plan on him doing it. It's shocking to me. We are so ham-fisted in our community. We are not responding to what is happening to us in the speed that we need to. And until we get more nimble in being able to do that, we cannot fight this foe. McCarthy was powerful until everyone said, I'm not going to be silent anymore. Wallace was powerful only until the National Guard comes into Alabama and says, oh, yes, you will, in terms of federal power. That hasn't happened yet to the governor of Florida.
Well, we move on and we queer up South Florida gay news. Resentment, uncertainty, and sadness surrounds upcoming Stonewall event. It's been a week since Wilton Manor City Commissioners voted to ensure enforcement of the ban on live, public drag entertainment at next month's Stonewall Pride Parade and Street Festival. In this week's SFGN, online now and on stands tomorrow, I examine the sense of betrayal in the community and claims of misunderstanding by local politicians at the hands of the ultimate mean girl, Wilton Manor's Governor Ron DeSantis. You can see our cover right there. Wilton Manors City Commission voted unanimously to amend the permit for Stonewall Pride Parade and Street Festival, ensuring producers follow all laws, including ones passed since the permit was issued in February, and I believe was one of the ones we just talked about and was signed today. The practical effect is to comply with the new law that appears to classify all live drag entertainment, regardless of content, as adult entertainment, and prevent drag performances on outdoor stages that will be set up all along Wilton Drive for the June 17 party. It appears people in drag will be allowed into the event and to participate in the parade. However, performing in the parade or on any exterior stage is likely to be prohibited due to being labeled adult entertainment. Detailed guidelines for attendance and participation are still being worked out by festival organizers. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has said this law is needed to protect children and recognize parental rights. Kevin Quinlan, a concerned resident, pointed out online that this actually infringes on a parent's rights, saying, quote, "Families live in the community and love bringing their kids to Wilton Manors. It's the parents' responsibility, not the government, to decide what their children are introduced to seeing and viewing," end quote. Many are calling for outright defiance, but officials and organizers say doing that would win the day, but not the fight. Open violation could lead to the governor exercising his authority to remove elected officials and city employees. Wilton Manor City Commissioner Chris Caputo reluctantly voted for the amendment, saying it's unfair for city employees to get caught up in politics, telling me, quote, "While it's one thing for an elected official like myself to be removed from office, it's not fair to ask our city staff to potentially lose their job and the ability to get hired by any other Florida municipality," end quote. He plans to attend in drag on a float and encourages others to join him. Everyone from citizens to city employees to organizers are upset. SFGN and Queer News Tonight will continue to follow all of the developments and talk with planners, officials, and the entertainers who are affected by the hateful bill coming from the increasingly fascist GOP party in Florida. I can tell you, it's been a very rough week. As the lead up to signing this, from the time it was the thing was amended last week, and there are no good choices. The people who had to make the vote last week said, we don't want to do this, but we also feel that living to fight another day is important. And I've had people inbox me, I've had people call me, I didn't know how they got my phone number, that's fine, but they've called, they've texted me and said, this can't be allowed to happen. But, and again, my heart and my head are split on this, but the reality is it's going to happen. How will we protest it? Will there be drag queens that just come out from the street and start marching? Will there be, how is the protest going to happen? We probably won't know until June 17th.
Because those decisions haven't been made yet, right?
Well, the decisions on who and will be allowed and in what capacity and in what outfit. There's going to be a dress code. And I'm not mad at the people who are going to have to create the dress code. I'm mad at the situation that's forcing us to start treating grown-ass adults like they're 8th graders in Catholic school and have to wear uniforms and no skirts more than 2 inches above the knee and whatever it is. It's ridiculous. Our state is ridiculous.
Sidebar note.
Yes.
Whatever happens on June 17th, we will make sure that we loudly discuss, do these exact same standards apply to Hooters? Just a heads up.
Exactly right.
Just a heads up.
No, one of the things that I actually appreciated this year of Miami Beach Gay Pride is that it came back as a political force. I mean, people were protesting against this guy, Fabian Basabe. And actually, I haven't seen that in Miami Beach Gay Pride in years. It was a very refreshing thing to see that we're not just a partying town, that we came out to protest, because gay pride is protest. And we have to do that here in Fort Lauderdale as well for Stonewall. Otherwise, it will be another circuit party.
I just want to, the asterisks, I agree with what you just said, but the asterisks here that didn't apply at Miami Beach that will apply at Stonewall in June is the law goes into effect today. Even if you can make the argument that the law is not going into effect yet, it still goes into effect because the chill fear that the governor has done has been successful. The difference in this parade and everything else that will happen now after Miami Beach is that there is the risk of felony involvement by the governor. And the one issue on protest, which I'm completely on board, Pride is a protest, and let's have a protest. But you can't expect the city or a city government or a city manager or a police chief to risk the governor coming in and removing them because of not following the intent of the law or the actual law. It's so vague you don't know. That's what's at risk here. So to everyone that's saying, we won't do it, we'll ignore it, we will, no, you won't. You can't. The governor's power is almost absolute. The city manager could be removed. Chris Caputo, as a commissioner, could be removed.
Okay, and let me say something about Chris Caputo. So he posted today saying, you know, he has definitely come to bat for us on many occasions, Mr. Chris Caputo. And he posted on his Facebook saying that he would support drag. And like you said, he will be attending in drag as well, right? And if Ron DeSantis wants to come for him, he's ready to fight in court. Okay, and he put that on his Facebook. So he understands that his removal might happen, right? But he's ready to fight the fight. Yeah. Not everybody can do that.
He is, but I believe he will be on a float as a person, not necessarily in his role of a commissioner. And I can tell you something, nothing's going to happen on June 17th. We will protest, we will do whatever. No one's going to be arrested. Unless there's violence, no one's going to be arrested, no one's going to be dragged off. If any violations, what's going to happen is a couple Tuesdays at 10 o'clock in the morning when there's no cameras, they're going to be served with papers. Your liquor license is gone. You're being removed from office. They won't give us the video of drag queens being hauled off. That would win the argument for us hands down. They won't give us that. It's going to come quietly in the middle of the week when no one's watching and there won't be a damn thing anyone can do about it, and there won't be any video to show for it, to show the outrage.
But maybe that's needed, that's necessary, because things have to change. I know it's painful, but again, we're not waking up unless outrage is, generated. I don't know how is that gonna change?
It's important to remember that Stonewall was a riot. Pride did not start off as just walking on floats and having a good time. It was a riot. It was standing up for ourselves. People were hurt. People were tired of being killed. People were tired of being injured and targeted. And that's happening again. We've gotten complacent as a community, and we've started to forget, because we got marriage equality, that we are still not done with our fight. And we need help from our other brothers and sisters that are in other states, in the other gay meccas, Palm Springs, New York. All of you, please help us. Start actually standing up for your fellow brothers and sisters here in Florida. And on our Pride, have your own protests with us. Please stand in solidarity, because if he goes for president, what's going to happen to you?
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Next, let's queer up education. California college professor blames ideology for his firing after handing out transphobic chocolate. David Richardson, a tenured history professor at Madera Community College in California, reportedly brought chocolate bars to a campus open house on April 29th, which had he, him, and she, her pronouns written on them, and which contained nuts or no nuts, respectively. The professor was put on leave for his neo-pronouns protest. As part of the suspension, he has been locked out of his university email account and barred from the campus. Richardson also claims he has had no communication from the university. The history professor likened his treatment to the Hollywood 10 and other victims of the Red Square in the 1940s and 50s, when communist panic overtook the country, and demagogues like Senator Joseph McCarthy held sway in Congress. These chocolate bars belong to Jeremy's Chocolate, which was created by Jeremy Boring, the co-CEO of conservative news outlet, The Daily Wire. The brand was created as a response to Hershey's trans-inclusive ad campaign for International Women's Day 2023. The teacher told Fox News, quote, "I feel as if they've been sort of looking for a reason to get rid of me because I don't share the current opinion on neo-pronouns and that kind of stuff," end quote. In addition to Fox News, the professor's cause has been taken up by chocolate maker Boring, who's created a fresh graphic for his transphobic treats. And you know that this professor's gay, folks? Like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, oh my, he's gay, okay? Like, What is wrong with you, dude? Of course they took you off of your job, and you're probably not going to get your job back. Unless you've got a lot of money and power, you can't talk shit about us like that, okay? I mean, you are just a professor, and yes, you just lost your job. And boring? Really? That's your last name? So of course your chocolate bar sucks.
It's the last name's on point. I mean, if people at home ever see me looking off to my right, it's because our studio mascot Luna is sleeping right off stage. She's my emotional support dog for stories like this. Jesus Christ. Or transphobic chocolate. And he's the martyr. Oh my God. I enjoy the view from up on your cross, dude. Seriously, you're a waste of time.
How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you? I mean, being gay. And on top of that, his name is David Richardson. How dare you? Seriously. Our dear David Richardson. I mean, how do you have that name and being that
And be an
stupid,
awful person, yeah.
Awful person. I mean, how do you do that?
I do
And
know.
the extent they go to do these kind of things, I mean, he got what he deserves.
To be fair, I have a lot of friends who are gay, clearly, who also don't quite understand or know how to navigate the pronoun situations. That is understandable. This is what I tell them. When someone is using their pronouns willingly, they're giving them to you, it's so that you understand how best to address them, so you have clear boundaries and guidelines on how to have a conversation respectfully with one another. If you don't feel the need to share yours, that's fine. But if someone else is going to, isn't it just polite to respect the individual? I mean, my mama raised me better than that, barely, but better.
That's really the issue, as the person at the table that has probably violated correct pronoun choice the most by far over the last 5 years. It's an evolutionary process where you have to first go, is this important? And if you start in a place where, no, it's not important, you don't realize the offense that you're doing, and then you begin to learn the harm that you're doing. And then you begin to learn, oh, wait, this is causing harm. I shouldn't feel this way. And then you commit to it, and you make mistake after mistake after mistake. That's not what's going on here. And dude, you can't sell this. First off, you're an educator. You're a college professor who is using pronoun protest chocolates with nuts in them. Come on, dude. You're just ignorance beyond ignorance. And you know why we make jokes and laugh about it? At the end of the day, the jokes are great. The jokes are great. But at the end of the day, you're in California. We're in Florida. Today, the governor of Florida passed a law that basically ends any kind of medical embracement of the trans community in the state of Florida, and protects medical professionals in a whistleblowing Jewish 1939 declare if somebody is Jewish police state on people that are supporting the trans community, and preventing medical boards that all say affirming care for the trans community is vitally critical. And we passed a law, signed into law today, that says you can't even, from your medical board standpoint of your professionalism, have anything to do with it. And if you do, you are going to be in trouble because our whistleblowers are going to report you for doing it. That's what you're doing in California. Now, none of those things will happen in California. You're just a joke with chocolates and nuts in them. In Florida, it's not a joke.
Exactly right. Now, next, let's clear up the USA view. Department of Homeland Security reports increased threats towards LGBTQ+. A new report distributed to government and law enforcement agencies on May 11 by the Department of Homeland Security said that domestic violence extremists and people who commit hate crimes have increased threats of violence against the LGBTQ+ community within the last year. DHS said that the issues inspiring threats and calls of violence against the LGBTQ+ community could lead to a rise of potential attacks against larger targets, such as public spaces and healthcare sites that may be linked to the community. DHS analysts also cite social media chatter celebrating the recent mass shootings at a Nashville church school. According to DHS, about 20% of all hate crimes reported throughout the country in 2021 were motivated by bias linked to sexual orientation and gender, citing the FBI's hate crime statistics. In recent months, politicians in Tennessee, Florida, and other Republican-run states have introduced legislation that critics say targets the LGBTQ plus community. In March, Tennessee became the first state to restrict public drag performances. In March 2022, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Parental Rights in Education bill, dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill, by detractors. Last month, the Florida Board of Education expanded those restrictions to include all grades. DHS mentioned that high-profile attacks against schools and faith-based institutions have historically inspired individuals to copycat attacks. What you just said exactly fits this. You know, what you think is a joke in California, you know, have repercussions around the country and in communities like ours where this hate is brewing, you know, and this intolerance. What is a joke to you, David Richardson, in California, in Florida, or Tennessee, or Alabama, could be interpreted in different ways. So what you do and you say have consequences. And if you're an educator, you should keep that in mind. You know, this is what is translating different ways around the country. And it's kind of like feeding this intolerance.
Yeah.
So
of course this is going up. Here's the thing, Dino. Stupid people want to stay stupid. Okay, they don't want to know. They don't want to educate themselves. Jacob, it's the truth, babe. Okay, they want to stay stupid. All right. There are people who really think that gays are going into elementary schools and grooming children. I mean, I have read on a board that says that they think that we're going in there and injecting kids with something that makes them gay. This is how crazy some of these people think. All right, so why not copycat somebody else, or like that shooting at church? They think that they're saving the world by getting rid of us. Mm-hmm. And they truly believe it. If you gave them a lie detector test, they would pass. These are scary ass times. Scary.
And it's all supported by the state in Florida. It's all supported by that. Okay, we're going to demonize these people. We're going to demonize the hell out of you. Then we're going to tell doctors they don't have to treat you. If they sincerely believe it religiously, they don't have to.
If they feel uncomfortable,
yeah.
John.
Right.
And then they say, here's a gun. Here's as many guns as you want. We don't need to know who you are or how many you have. And by the way, these people are terrible. They don't get medical treatment. Doctors don't have to treat them. Even stupid people, Faye, are going to be able to connect those two dots. It's a short trip. Yeah. It's dangerous.
And you know the
fucking
proof of
dangerous.
that, by the way. It's an interesting observation you just make. The DHS statistics show that the percentage of these kind of hate crimes against the LGBT marginalized community is 3 times what the percentage of population should be. And we're in an unfortunate pool because the only other marginalized community that has a greater percentage of hate is anti-Semitic hate. And we all understand anti-Semitic hate because for 100 years, really hundreds of years, but in a world war, there was a Holocaust over marginalization of a minority community. We are talking about butting up against a marginalized community where a Holocaust happened. Anti-Semitic hate and LGBT. That's our neighbor in this.
We were doing some fundraisers for our foundation throughout the year, trying to do different ad campaigns that were raising money for trans kids that we were helping to support. And the most disturbing thing that we got was the interaction on our posts, which were incredibly anti-trans, incredibly scary. Our lives threatened constantly, every day, getting so many posts, and like it was upsetting enough to where I was no longer allowed to go onto our social media, and our vice president had to, and I'm so grateful for her. But it does show that who we're trying to serve is incredibly disliked because there's no positive representation. They don't see the beauty behind choosing your identity, choosing your gender. And I just want to ask everyone out there, when was the last time or the first time you chose to be a man or a woman, regardless if you were born or not? When did you choose to be a man or a woman? Our trans brothers and sisters made that choice. But our cisgendered, we never consider it. And that's where we have a problem.
We're up to you, Jacob. We're going to
guess we're up.
Taiwan.
Wonderful. Next, let's queer up the worldview. LGBTQ plus rights progress in Taiwan continues as same-sex adoption is approved. On Tuesday, Taiwan's legislature passed a bill that granted same-sex couples the right to jointly adopt a child, clearing one of the final hurdles in achieving full marriage equality. In 2019, Taiwan became the first jurisdiction in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage, but it stopped short of granting fully equal rights of the adoption to same-sex couples. Previously, only heterosexual couples and single people were allowed to adopt children to whom they were not biologically related, creating situations where if same-sex couples wanted to adopt a child, only one of them could register as the child's legal parent, even if they both shared the burden of raising the child. Fan Yun, a lawmaker from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, said, quote, "I am very excited that we granted joint adoption rights to same-sex couples today. Legally, we have finally returned same-sex couples to their children," end quote. Aww. Before the legal change Tuesday, some same-sex couples had spent years challenging the discrimination in Taiwanese courts. In a landmark ruling last January, a male couple from the Kaohsiung city managed to successfully challenge the ban when the court ruled that allowing joint adoption was in the best interest of their child. But the court also dismissed other similar cases, and the law that limited their civil liberties remained on the statute until it was amended Tuesday. I think that's really cool. Taiwan's surprisingly progressive.
Yeah, no, I was there in 2019 when they approved the same-sex marriage in Taiwan. I was just in Taiwan. I wasn't there for that reason, but I was just partying in Taiwan.
You were looking for a Taiwanese boyfriend. That's what you were looking for.
And I was like you. I was very surprised that that Taiwan passed same-sex marriage before, let's say, Thailand. Yeah. I thought it's very refreshing to see that a part of China that they are trying to they're definitely trying to create the difference with the mainland China and the liberties and the rights of the Taiwanese. I think this is fantastic. I'm so happy for them.
Yes, and let's get happier about this, Dino, because this is the only positive news story that we're doing all day.
I'm so happy I got to read it.
Okay, so let's remember that.
Make sure you watch it. It's happening out at 9.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, this is fantastic that this passed. There are so many children without parents in Taiwan, and now they get a chance to be raised by two same-sex people that just love each other and want to give you love as well. That is just wonderful. Wonderful.
You know what makes me nervous is that we're starting to see a lot of progressive stuff come out of the parliament in Taiwan, not just related to LGBTQ issues. And to your point, I have to wonder if this is if they're seeing this as like last call for democracy. Because let's be honest, the PRC will probably be back in charge.
Wait. That, to me, is the real interesting point of this story, because worldwide, and I've been talking about this book that I've been reading on authoritarianism, which is fabulous. One of the points that is made in terms of authoritarian decision-making, especially as it relates to marginalized communities like LGBT, is the two principal things that have gotten in the way through human history, especially in modern times, to marginalized communities is evangelical church, and they stand in the way of marginalized communities against Jews, for example, against LGBT, against minority representation of race and even gender that is not the majority. And then the other is authoritarian dictatorship. And this is an interesting story, to your point. In America, the principal issue is not the politics of the GOP. It's been the autocratic nature of religion in America that has stood in the way of LGBT, and then the GOP and a radical GOP added to it. That's different in the People's Republic and in Taiwan. The People's Republic is autocratic, and as a result, while they're not punishing LGBT, there is no embracement of LGBT civil rights as a marginalized community in China. Virtually none. 1.6 billion people, no LGBT embracement, like Russia. Conversely, the Chinese, the argument is, we're China. And that's what China's argument is on Taiwan. But they do it completely different. They don't face the evangelical kind of Christian church that we see in the West, and they don't have the autocratic nature that the People's Republic has. So as a result, they're getting to it way faster of an embracement of a marginalized community because those two decision makers are removed. And that's why we're watching what's happening in Taiwan.
Makes sense.
It's very exciting
But I have
too.
to say, Grindr is happening in China, both China and Taiwan. I'm telling you, when I was in China in Beijing, it was happening. Grindr was happening.
We'll just like
people.
Grindr sit on the table.
Right? That's it.
It's true.
This is a glowing endorsement for your dating apps everywhere.
We need church.
We all need church, okay?
need
And with that, next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios.
Well, that was epic. And that's today's news for the LGBTQ plus community and the world's first and only LGBTQ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, and you know it is, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire, say it with me, TV.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these type of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Fay What, John Hayden, Dino Mosquera, and Jacob Reide Jennings. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you good
Buenas noches.